is Donald Trump going to get rid of the Department of Education? I don't know. It seemed like it was imminent last week, and then they sort of backed away from it and said they're going to continue to review it. Meanwhile, the head of the National Teachers Union, Randi Weingarten, was almost in tears over the idea.
They're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So billionaires, kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry,
no,
I'm really angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, so the U.S. Department of Education, if you did away with it tomorrow, it would actually give more control to local school districts, more control to the states to handle education. I mean, it doles out grants and all of those things, but her meltdown is totally misplaced. And obviously, you're going to see that meltdown from somebody who's the head of the teachers union. But we had on the Sunday show, on Sundays with Subscribers yesterday, Vicki Murray. So Vicki is Washington Policy Center's new director of the Center for Education, but she literally wrote a book about the nation's failing education system. And we talked to her about this idea of, should Trump get rid of the U.S. Department of Education? What would it mean for our state? Here's a clip from our interview on Sundays with Subscribers. Donald Trump campaigned on eliminating the Department of Education. It seems like he's continuing to make steps in that direction. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a terrific idea. We never needed a Department of Education. Look at our neighbors to the north, Canada. They do very well. High immigration, all of this. It's handled at the provincial level. They don't have a Ministry of Education. We could easily get rid of the Department of Education right now. And people are concerned about what about this program, that program. I actually wrote a book on how to do it with a blueprint called Failure, the Miseducation of America's Children. It's very simple. First thing we do is all the constitutional programs, for example, like the Office for Civil Rights, Veterans Affairs, all of this, we put those back into pre-existing departments, Veterans Affairs, the Department of Justice. As far as the federal government being a bank or sort of an intermediary between private loans, no, that should be privatized. The government doesn't have good financial literacy, financial sense. I don't want them in charge of that kind of finance. So the rest of it, all the programs and so forth like that, we have state departments of education. Devolve all the programs, all the grants down to the state departments of education. Those grants will typically run 1 to 5 years. Doesn't matter where we are in those life cycles of those programs. Once they're nearing the end of their life cycle, put it before the voters, because it's going to be a tax. Vote for a tax, up or down. Then you're done. And we do have a president whose background is perfectly suited to sell the property in DC, make a pretty penny, and return that money to the taxpayers. What we're seeing in the news now that people are concerned about, and as a researcher, I'm concerned about too, the Institute for Education Sciences, the National Center for Education Statistics, the statistics gathering.
Yep.
We could put that in census. But I, for one, even though I do like the fact that it makes my job a lot easier, there's nothing stopping states and using a federal system to get together, use best practices, and let's continue that good work that way. But it would be less susceptible to politicization. And here's a challenge I'd like to issue. And this was a recommendation back in the 70s as an alternative to a department, a big bureaucracy. Why don't we just get a catalog of all the programs? Are they working or are they not? That didn't fly. You want to know why? And I have to check this. I haven't had the chance to check this, but at the time when I wrote my book a few years ago, there does not exist a uniform definition of what a federal education program is. So if we can't define it, how can we measure whether it's working or not?
Yeah.
So we really don't know. I think the states are much better equipped. And here's the beauty part of that. Not only do we get better policy, we won't eliminate it entirely, but we can really minimize the politicization, because all of these rent seekers, all of these folks, for example, like various unions that go to Washington and just have to go to one place, you're now going to try and influence 50 states. So I think for that reason alone, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, it was a fascinating conversation with Vicki Murray, and we talk also about sort of the empowering parents and school choice, and comparing what happened in Arizona, where 2 decades ago they were kind of in the same position we are, and now they've dramatically expanded school choice. So I highly recommend watching the conversation. You can watch the full interview with Vicki Murray coming up yesterday on Sundays with subscribers. I'm like, what day is it? It's Monday. It happened yesterday. If you're not a subscriber, you can sign up undividedpod.com. We do in-depth interviews every Sunday that you can check out on that show on interesting, unique topics. I also want to note, just because we're on this subject, there was some interesting news out of the Freedom Foundation. So our state, you don't have to be a member of the teachers union if you don't want to be. And look, you're still going to get the benefit of their bargaining or whatever it is. But if you don't believe in what the teachers unions are doing, I mean, God knows they're very extreme in Washington. You don't have to be a member of the teachers union, and there are other states where that's the same. So the Freedom Foundation announced that it has just formed kind of an alternative to traditional teachers unions. It's called the Teacher Freedom Alliance. They're calling it a non-union alternative for educators. They say over the past 2 years, Teacher Freedom Alliance and the Freedom Foundation has brought together more than 500 educators from 35 states, providing a platform to educate teachers about their First Amendment rights for union representation and the various resources available to them. The Teacher Freedom Alliance is bringing teachers together from all over the country to restore education and make the need for teachers' unions obsolete. Love that. So if you're one of those teachers that doesn't want to be a member of your local crazy teachers union or the WEA, check out the Teacher Freedom Alliance.